Harold?
I'm first on. Hope everybody had a good break. We'll call the meeting back to order. Let's see, where are we? Number 8B. This is the update on the Parker Meadows Recreation Project. A little background, I think everybody's pretty familiar with it. For 10 years, long before any of us were on this board, the county recognized the need for additional recreation space, and I'll leave it at that, a lot of recreation space. So there's been somewhat of an informal search for property opportunities. Nothing really presented itself. The recreation folks came to us sometime back with a possible opportunity. We refer to as the old Parker Meadows golf course. Back in November, we made an offer to purchase, which simply said is a intent to look into buying, to think about it. That's what we've been doing. We asked for 30 days due diligence to do the research on that project. Before the end of that 30 days, we did not feel like we had enough information to vote yes or no on that property. So we asked for another 30 days and indicated if that 30 days was not granted by the current owner that we would decline the property. They agreed to give us another 30 days, and that 30 days is up next Tuesday. So we're getting close to the end of that. We came up with a whole list of, I'll call them questions, concerns, just things that we wanted to know about the property's usability, things like that before we ever made the decision. And we still have not made that decision. We did pass this list on not only to our staff. Jack has done a great job of doing research and sort of heading that up. Michael LaVoy, of course, is an engineer that we've had employed that has done a lot of the work. Mike, we appreciate the work you've done, and we'll set that with these two guys on the agenda, and they're going to present some information back to us tonight that we've asked for some answers on about that property. So if that's a fair introduction, Michael or Matt, I know Matt. Okay, and Matt Mason, of course, with the county, and we're going to ask these guys to bring us a report on this thing.
Thank you, Chairman Corbin, Commissioners, as well as county staff. My name is Mike LaVoy. I'm with Alliance Consulting Engineers, and as Chairman Corbin mentioned, I've been helping with due diligence for the Parker Meadows Recreational Park. Been working with county staff for the last month or so, working on things. And just here tonight really to kind of give you a brief summary of where we are with things for the park. Just to let everybody know where the park is located. It's located in the western portion of the county off of Maxwell Home Road and Patton Road. At this time, we've been doing due diligence work on the property. And at first, just to give you a little history of where we are today, we started working on a site plan for the project that most everyone's seen, and we came up with a plan that we felt like would work to show that the property will fit the proposed rec facilities that we have planned for the property. And from there, we went into the due diligence process. We have had a phase 1 environmental assessment, site assessment done on the property. We just received it back recently, and it came back and it stated that there were no recognized environmental conditions on the property, so that's a good thing. They actually went out, we went out and did a site visit and looked over the property well to make sure that we couldn't to look for any kind of environmental conditions that could be a hazard on the site. As I stated, none were found, so that's a good thing. We met with the U.S. Army Corps on the site. Myself and some staff members met with Mr. David Brown of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. That was one of the first things we wanted to look into, was to make sure that we weren't going to have any issues that would hold us back from dealing with jurisdictional waters of the state and whatnot. So we were able to meet with them, and we were able to determine that the property is going to be able to be usable for what we're proposing. There are some jurisdictional waters on the property. There's one stream that runs from Maxwell Home Road to the Cartuga J Creek on the northern side of the property. South of that, there's a large wetland in the central vicinity of the property. that runs into a stream that discharges into the Artiga Creek as well. We were able to meet with them and determine if those were jurisdictional waters. It was pretty easily seen that that was the case. And then there is also a second pond on the property that we were concerned about because it's kind of like the middle where we want to put our fields. And we did determine with Mr. David Brown of the board that it was an isolated pond. And from that, he said that since it's an isolated pond, it transfers over to state regulations. From that, I went and met with Mr. Kevin Barnett, who's an environmental specialist for this area for the North Carolina Department of Environment and Natural Resources. And he stated that since he had talked to Mr. Brown and was familiar with the property, and he stated at the meeting that the isolated waters regulations of the state say that if it's a man-made pond, it can be filled in. So that pond will not be looked at as state waters, as jurisdictional waters. We will be able to fill that pond in, which was a really great thing to find out because it was right in the middle of one of our fields. So we are sure of that. We've gotten that in writing from Mr. Barnett and from NC Dinger, and so that should be no problem. As well after that, so one of the next things we did was we went out there and we did basically what we call a wetland delineation on the property. And we wanted to make sure that the wetland that we were seeing had been delineated back a while back when they were looking to turn it into an RV park. So we knew that there was a wetland there, but we wanted to make sure that that wetland wasn't going to cause us any issues with the development as well. So we have gone out there and delineated that wetland. The wetland it decreased in some areas and it increased in some areas, but based on the GPS coordinates that were given to me from the environmental consultant, the wetland will not impose an issue on the property for the proposed recreational facilities, so that was good news. We are continuing forward with that, and what we'll be doing is we will take that wetland delineation and we will actually proceed with U.S. Army Corps to request a jurisdictional waters determination, which will be a federal permit basically that we'll get that will basically state exactly what are jurisdictional waters are on the property, and so that will be involved in federal records. So we are in the process of doing that. We have spoken to Mr. David Brown. He did agree with what we found out there on the site. He was fine with everything, so we don't foresee anything coming up as far as jurisdictional waters go. Also, another important issue out there that we working with Mr. Horton and staff we were concerned about is, of course, the cultural resources out there. And so we have met with Ms. Linda Hall, with the State Historic Preservation Office. As well, we've also met with Mr. Tyler Howe, who's with the Tribal Historic Preservation Office for the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians. We met with both of them, and they do say that the site was most likely inhabited by the Cherokee Indians, and we agree with that. It is near waters, and so it was probably a great place for them to live in those times. And from our conversations with them, we have come to terms and basically have determined that we do feel like we can develop the property without causing any harm to any of the potential cultural resources on the property. And so at this time we're in the process of trying to get a concurrence letter, or a letter of no effect from the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians STIPO office, as well as from Ms. Linda Hall of the STIPO office. So we foresee being able to work with them, no problem. So at this time there doesn't seem to be any problems with the cultural resources side. We're also in the process of doing a threatened endangered species survey out there. It is in process. Based on the preliminary work that's been done on that, there is nothing that has come up so far that is going to be an issue out there. So we're looking good as far as threatened endangered species go. And then, so as far as that goes, that's most of the due diligence process as far as the state funding and whatnot requires us to do. We've also obtained a survey for the property, a boundary and topographic survey that's been done for the property that we've been using at this time now. And then after that, most of this stuff's been going on kind of at the same time. We also just recently, just before Christmas, conducted a public input meeting. It was held in Macon County. We had 60-plus community members show up, and were able to present the project to them, as well as answer questions and obtain comments from them. We had a really good turnout. We felt like we had a really good meeting. We had a few folks there that were a little concerned about some of the issues with living across the street from the park. But we feel like based on the comments that they had and based on the information that we were able to give them about what the park was going to be as a final product, we feel pretty certain we'll be able to accommodate those neighbors. And then from there, we basically from here we go towards going towards the Part F grant that we talked about that we're in the process of doing. One other thing that we have gotten back is from Part F. We sent out a Part F, Parks and Recreation Trust Fund, I should say, which we call a Part F grant. We sent out a Part F waiver that has been approved by the state that will allow us to purchase the property now and in turn be reimbursed for that from the Part F grant funds that we hope to attain. So that was a real positive thing as well. And then at this time, I could take some questions, but maybe we should wait and let Mr. Matt Mason talk a little bit, and after that I can answer any questions if anybody's got them. But that's basically where we are. Yes, sir.
After several discussions with Mike and Seth, Mr. Horton, basically two questions were posed to me that I was asked to be in charge of looking at. One was, how does this fit in our land use ordinances? Primarily the high impact land use ordinance, the watershed protection ordinance, the flood ordinance. The first page of the handout I gave you a summary of how they fit in them. The high impact land use ordinance only applies to certain uses of recreation park facilities will not fall under the high impact land use ordinance. The property is located in the water supply watershed for the town of Franklin. Looking at the design and the requirements of the ordinance, we should be well under the requirements for that, for impervious surfaces and stuff like that. If for some reason we need to increase the impervious surface, we can ask for the watershed council to get a special non-residential allocation for up to 70%. So those regulations are out there, we should be affected by that at all. And of course, the property is located in the floodplain, so the flood ordinance will apply to it. All of our primary structures that we have, anything from the bathroom facilities, concession stand, all our principal structures are not in the flood zone. And the preliminary design does show some secondary shelter and stuff like that, which could be located there. So all in all, it's a pretty good design for what the property allows and what the land is like. And in summary, you can read my last paragraph there. It says, in summary, the proposed recreation park at Parker Farms will be in full compliance with all existing land use ordinances that are in effect for the citizens of Macon County. The second page was my second question, was can we get septic? Working with Mr. Patterson's office and some of his guys, we went out there and looked at 3 or 4 different places and did come up with a septic drawing for the design use. And that, you'll see it's located basically at the intersection of Patton Road and Macon Road on the hillside between the creek and Patton Road. That's a 650 gallon per day system designed for the 8 baseball fields / softball fields with 2 concession stands and emergency quarters. Right.
Thanks, man. Very good. Very good. Thank you. And I believe that those are the questions we'd ask. Seth, you have anything to add?
All I have to add is we knocked out any bridges that we cannot cross with this property right now. It is still, we tweaked the design somewhat, and after everything that we have, all the work we put in towards it, I'd like to thank everybody that's had a hand in it. After looking at it, studying it at all angles, I recommend it is still a very good proposed site for a new recreation complex.
Thanks. Gentlemen, anybody have any questions for these gentlemen?
There was an issue come up on concession stands. You know, we talked initially, Tommy came in a presentation about income flow from this thing. Where does that, what is the primary principal generator of income in a clover or in a development like this?
In development like this, the economic impact is not going to be basically straight back to the county. It is going to be the teams coming in, buying motel rooms, eating in the restaurants, and that. We will make some money back. I plan on running the concessions basically in the clover leagues. You're going to have league games and things through the week, and then tournaments through the weekend. It's not going to be a huge money maker. That's not the primary funding, or not the primary revenue source. It is going to be basically the folks coming in and staying here, from out of town will bring majority of the revenue that is brought by this facility.
What's the plan to handle the food for this thing? Because I've heard Pigeon Forge and these places, that concessions is a big issue, big draw there.
It is, and what I plan on is we have part-time workers in the rec park. We hire probably I triple my staff during the summer, and we don't have concession stand workers as we speak right now because the Little League boards run their own. That's a money maker for them. But at this facility, I plan on having basically our guys, part-time workers that we pay, and we will handle the food sources. With the new pool, we're going to have kind of a concession area that we will have in that also. So we'll already have vending set up with vending accounts set up. So I'll have part-time workers work those concession stands to where that will be a revenue source for the county.
You just go out and buy hamburger, or do you deal with local restaurants, or that's where you get it?
We probably won't cook any food on site. It'll be more like potato chips. If we do, it will steam hot dogs and things. I don't see us making actually for the septic system and things. We're going to keep the concession stands as basic as we can. We're not planning on cooking anything. They're not going to be any huge ovens or anything like that in there. It's going to be chips and drinks and order pizza, to warm up and that type of concession stands.
And wash snakes about all this in there.
Yes.
I was surprised that after we had that initial meeting, I think they talked to several, but we talked to one of them. The parents that came up to me and said that per child, what they spend on the average weekend going out of town.
$3,400.
Well, they said at the minimum $350.
Yeah.
And at the most, if you have to travel, some of these live for Florida.
Oh yeah.
They said, you looking at $700. So it's I never think good with my young people.
These tournaments pop up everywhere, and this site, as we were speaking the other day, what better place to bring new people here? You're gonna have parents come to watch their kids play ball. They're gonna fall in love with this place when they're here. If you can choose to go to Atlanta, Georgia, and play in a complex in the middle of the city, or come to the mountains of North Carolina and Franklin and play a tournament, that's a no-brainer in my eyes.
I'm seeing calls from 3 business people excited,
Oh yeah.
The tour.
Yeah.
Because their kids have been involved.
Yeah.
And they said, you don't understand how these people.
Well, they do.
You have mom and daddy, grandpa and grandma. And, I hadn't really thought out that far.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. And it will keep a lot of folks home, but it will also bring a lot of folks here. So that's a.
So they'll make the size
that they may. Good.
Okay, you guys have any questions, Tom?
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Matt, what is the majority of the area and what flood zone? 10-year, 100-year?
About 30% of the property is in a 100 year. But actually, once you construct the ball field the way it's designed right now, there's one outfield, one big field, and 2 small fields. There's nothing in the flood zone. Basically, everything plays off of the river.
And just to put that in perspective, current recreation park fields are 100% flood.
Yeah.
You're driven by there for heavy rain.
And the one at the industrial park is 300%.
Yes, it is. It is. I've seen where all you can see on those fields is the yellow Can't stop him
Top of the dugout.
a few times.
But it doesn't hurt the field.
It does. The water goes away.
About this property, I understand, we're not buying. We ask you to do due diligence, all three of you. So I don't expect you to render an opinion about should we buy it or not. That's unfair of us to ask that. If you think about that, we gotta think about paying for it, we gotta think about development, we gotta think about the usage of it. And what we ask you to do is tell us any reason we shouldn't drive on to make that decision. Did you find anything to this point that makes you believe we should not buy the property?
No, sir, not at this point. One of our biggest concerns, of course, was septic, and we feel like we have that taken care of. These guys have done a good job out there, and we feel confident that what they found out there is going to allow the septic to work as we need it. Which we won't be producing too much wastewater anyway, so it didn't need to be too big an area. But the other issue, one of my major concerns was dealing with the cultural resource side of things. Yes, with and meeting with Mr. Tyler Howe out there, basically what transpired out there was that as long as because one of the things they were going to do, if we wanted to come in and disturb the entire site, they were going to make us do a complete full-blown archaeological survey of the site, which would one, take a lot of time, and two, it would cost a lot of money. So that would slow the project down tremendously. But what Mr. Howe agreed with us on site is that if we can stay above the plow depth out there, that he has no problem with us doing whatever it is we want to do. And that plow depth is about 14 to 16 inches deep. So there will be some instances where we'll have subsurface utilities for storm drainage potentially, as well as for water and wastewater, and also electric. So in those corridors that will be subsurface, that will be below the plow depth, Mr. Howe agreed that we would just be able to hire a certified archaeologist to be present on site during the construction of those subsurface utilities. And so by doing that, it will not slow down the project. And he stated that in cases where this has been done in the past, working with Clayton County, I believe, and some other places working in Cherokee. They've done this as well, that when you do have the contractor out there excavating, the archaeologist is present, and when they see something that they're concerned about, at that time, we'll just move over just a little bit, enough to move around, whether it may be a burial site or whether it may be an old fire pit or an old home site or something. So he didn't see any problem with that being the case out there, and felt certain that we would be able to accommodate what we're proposing on site. He has seen the site plan, we did go over in detail with it.
He did mention that verbally to us last Friday. Some of the property has already been disturbed. The property that's already been disturbed will not be something that they would be concerned about. It's already been disturbed, or some part of it has been disturbed. The other thing is like we said, he said I have to do the entire site archaeological survey. We were able to stay within the plow depth and the areas where you had to go below the plow depth where the sewer lines with shovel shape those areas as we go through. The same thing we did at Dollar Valley Country School, and have an archaeologist on site, which we did out there for the first day or so, for us it was usage was and that would probably be okay. We expect, and I would hope that he could give us that in writing, have in our file.
Yes, I've already requested that.
And so if we could do that, then we can piece of documentation.
I hope to have that documentation for
That would be great, because that greatly reduces any anticipated costs. In areas where you're not going to disturb any property in the ground by digging it all, there's no concern at all about going to an archaeological survey. Some of the area out there has been filled for the golf course, with greens, tees, and so forth. That property's been disturbed. And a lot of area around the clubhouse area, the pond has been disturbed. But they seem to be working very well with us on this project. I think they'd really like to see this put in community recreational use versus other use that might not be desirable or disturb the property or this use, so they seem to be very supportive of all of it.
Mr. Howell was aware that this was to be bought by a private entity, that they can come in and do whatever they want. And, you know, property will be destroyed, they don't even have to deal with these things.
That was the only other question I had written down here, was getting that letter.
I have contacted Mr. Howell since that meeting,
Be nice to have
and,
that in writing.
spoken with him of what our plan is to do, and, he has not gotten back to me. He understands the role of accomplishment here, so I'm pretty sure he's going to replace it.
Thank you for your work.
Yes, sir.
Gentlemen, any other questions for Mr. LaBorde, Mr. Mason, or Mr. Adams? Gentlemen, at this point, I will entertain a couple of ways to proceed. We could vote yes or no to proceed with the property, I suppose, tonight. We do have until the 15th, so we have until the 14th, which is next Monday. I think I would lean towards giving ourselves that additional week to do whatever investigation we want to. I personally don't mind telling you, I asked Lewis Kinlan to go out there yesterday with me. Lewis is the original contractor, I guess, Paul, that was worked on he built the golf course out there back in the 80s. A lot of it take 2 years. So I went out there with him and just wanted to take, he knows more about that than anybody as far as from when it was farmed to this day. And I had a lot of questions of him. I personally would suggest maybe that all of you have a conversation with him about that. And I know I think Mr. Higgins talked to him, Mr. Higgins, and do whatever else further due diligence. That'd be my recommendation, and I would suggest we continue tonight's meeting until next Monday night, the 14th, and we will have to make a decision, yes or no. That ends our due diligence period. If my math is correct. Unless I hear a motion to purchase it, or hear a motion to decline the property, we'll just table that, and we'll continue. Chester, we can continue this meeting, recess it until next Monday at 6, and we'll make a decision. Is everybody comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll just not make a decision, not give ourselves, we'd like to get that letter from the Eastern Man.
Yes, sir. I'll work on that.
Anything else we want to specifically say we'd like to see or hear about anything?
The only thing I'm hearing is, I was concerned about that set. You gentlemen, everybody I talked to says it's looking good. Is there anything better that we could get a little bit more than looking good as yes it is?
Got a curve in.
Got it.
You already got it. Good enough.
That's good for 5 years.
Okay. Jim, that seems to be the consensus to not make the motion or take any action tonight, so we'll move on. Item 8C is Commissioner Jim Tate. He has an update from the planning board.
Thanks, Doug. County Planner Matt Mason, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding that the planning board has finished the review of the subdivision ordinance. Correct. And it's been passed along to Mr. Jones, and then I'm speaking about this because I want clarification with all of y'all. I know we are heading in the right direction. I also want to bring up to speed on what's happening. It's been passed along to Chester, and Chester's opportunity, he'll review it, and then it'll come back before us. And I presume we will review it, and then we send it back to the board, decide whether to go. Second item is that the planning board has been asked to review the sign ordinance, the next topic, and the topic after that. Probably will not take long, we'll discuss it through next month. That's all we've got.
Well, the January meeting, we brought in public comments,
What's that date? Jim, you got the other calendar?
For the retreat.
I've got on the calendar.
I think you're right. Smart.
I'm thinking more smart water's worth this day.
Commissioner, we just got a new smart clock right there.
Give us the side of the track, what's on that.
Important, since we know that we make the right 40%. That's the thing,
Then I'll be on 5:30. Time.
6 o'clock, was it Saturday?
My last meeting was at 1:30.
So we will start reviewing the sign orders in March. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is that all, Commissioner Tate? That's it. Item, or number 9, old business. We have Macon County Public Health, billing and collection policies, fee schedules. Jim Bruckner is Public Health Director. Jim, welcome.
Very good. You should have in your packet a copy of our fee plan. This is something that you've approved in past years. We do have some minor changes that were requested by our state consultants based on changes to the state agreement addendum, which that changes every year. If you turn to page 3, the first change is towards the bottom of the page there. It should be highlighted. Basically, they want us to have all of our bills, which they already do, show all charges as well as discounts that may have been provided. And they wanted that in writing in our fee plan, so we added that. But we've already done that. And we've done that in the past. The second one is on the same page, payment by third-party payers. They asked that we would add the services that are billed to third parties are billed at the 100% total charge with no discount applied, and when the claim is returned to the third-party payer, discounts are applied at that time, which is our sliding fee scale. And it's not for all services, but some services, we already do that. They said that we have to have that in our billing guide as well. On page 4, the change there that they requested was, actually, no, this one came from ourselves, didn't it? Or they requested this one as well? We already have had people make donations to the health department in the past. We've never had it in the billing guide, but we actually had to also create a policy within the department for donations. We've had folks come and say, I'd like to give you $20 so that the next person can come and prove and get a flu shot. And so we had to add that. So it says, a consumer may choose to make a donation to the agency. The consumer will never be asked to make a donation, so we don't ask them. But if offered, the donation is accepted. Donations are not required and are not a prerequisite for the provision of any services. Billing requirements set out above in this payment by consumer section are not waived because of the consumer donation. In other words, they have to pay their bill as well. And we have a donations policy now that is a health department policy of 101.9. And the last requested change is all the way at the back on no page number. It's the last page of your packet. It's guidelines for determining elements of the sliding fee scale. They ask that we add the sentence that a client's percentage of pay is documented on the financial eligibility application, which is a form that our staff fills out, as well as in our health information system, and both of those things are already done. But they ask that we have that documented. And those are basically based on, as I said, agreement addenda and some accreditation requirements that we have set out by the state. And so we're requesting that you approve our fee plan. There's 2 separate pieces to this, so I need, if you approve our fee plan first and then we approve fees, that would be great.
You're going to go over the fee scale, that's what I know.
I'm going to go over the fees.
I got to make sure the fee scale.
Yes. But if you agree with the fee plan and the changes to the fee plan, that's what we're looking for first.
You want us to take action on the
On the plan. on the
Where is
billing
your donation
plan.
show that on the budget, on whatever, you have a, who keeps record of that? What,
It goes in as a revenue.
is this under donation?
It's just as a donation. No, there's not a line donation. It goes into, we have a line donation now? We have a line donation now. So that's where it's gonna go. Usually we just put it into the county, fund.
That's even better.
It's not. And we credit somebody somewhere else.
Commissioner Higgins, your liaison to the health department, if you have any questions about it, concerns.
I think Ronnie was going to the big scale.
These fees that we have changes to.
Sure, it's had a meeting. Who can read that? You have to work that part to be able to read that, right?
Well,
This.
yeah.
You have to work that part, I don't work that.
So we'll explain.
You can teach that to me.
We will. So can we go to the second one?
You'll get a motion on this first?
Well, let's say if we got to go through that, we can move on.
If Commissioner Hickman gives you. You're the man.
On the bill.
With the motion.
Yeah.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the plan as amended and presented. Any discussion about that? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Now we move on to the fee schedule.
Thank you. This is you approve fees as fees come along. We have thousands of fees literally. What we're asking for here, if you look at all the things under CPT code that start with a D along that right side, these are dental ADA codes, American Dental Association codes, for the services, which is the description of services that's in there. And the first column is what Medicaid reimbursement is for those services. Our fees, based on our sliding fee scale, is that we slide to 50% in adult dental, which is the Medicaid rate. That's our agreed upon rate. So the next column is our proposed fee. So it's usually double whatever the Medicaid rate was. And then the last two columns are what it would slide to if you were a 50% pay or a 75% pay client coming to the health department. So the first one,
Which is based on a prior.
which is based on,
that,
which is
table in.
correct. Well, dental has its own separate sliding fee scale.
And why, just remind me, Jim, why do we just double it? What's the purpose?
When we look at a cost for a service, we look at what our actual cost is based on both the direct cost and indirect costs for a service. And our services are about double the Medicaid rate, almost to the dollar.
So we just take that as a
So we
do it
take
everywhere.
that. We can actually, with dental, as we've had conversations here before in the past, we're not trying to compete with the private providers, but our rates are significantly lower than the private providers. And the Medicaid rate, it just worked out to where it's like double the Medicaid rate. And then when we slide, everybody's paying an equal 50%, which is the Medicaid rate. What we get when we do a service for Medicaid patients, what we do when we get service for a self-pay patient. Fair and equitable for all. That's the objective.
Some people get more Medicaid, and not have to pay anything.
Yes, sir.
So the ones who don't qualify for full Medicaid have to pay a percentage.
The ones who don't qualify for Medicaid, all Medicaid, we see a Medicaid patient and we bill Medicaid what the $98, they're only going to pay us $48.
They only pay 40.
Yeah,
What you
and then we don't bill the patient the difference between that. And then the majority of our self-pay patients that we have all slide to 50%. So they're all paying the Medicaid rate, which is less than half or far less in most circumstances, less than half of what.
And I think I read that that's based on poverty, percent of poverty, right?
It's based on the percent of poverty.
200.
200% of federal poverty is the maximum, is what we want to, in adult dental. Some programs go to 250, some programs, they're all different within the health department. Adult dental go to 200. The second piece of that, down at the bottom where it says increased cost in vaccine, we recoup our cost that we pay for the vaccine that we provide to within $1 or so. We try and get it as close. Like if it's $99.50, we go to $100. If it's $98, we stay at $98. But it's the actual fee that we pay whoever the vendor is that we're purchasing, say, pneumonia vaccine from. We have a surcharge that we do for the injection fee that's separate, that's already been approved in the past by the board. But we want to recoup our costs. We don't want to lose anything. The majority of these vaccines are not mandated vaccines. They're self-select. I want to get a pneumonia shot or I want to get a yellow fever shot because I'm traveling to China. So what we're asking is to add these codes, these are all new codes that we've never done before in dental, and to add, to increase these current fees. The pneumonia vaccine was $51 from before, now we're paying it's just under $60, $59 and change for that vaccine. And we have to recoup our costs on it. We can't get rid of it.
Do we accept insurance?
Yes, sir.
You can't have insurance and you can sliding scale vote.
There are circumstances where it does apply for different, like family planning services and some of the services. They do. That's why that one line that we had added there, when we bill an insurance company, we bill them the whole $100, let's say, for service, and they may only pay $45. The difference gets billed to the client, and in some of our programs, that difference is billed based on the sliding fee scale. Some of our programs is based at full cost, depending on whether it's a mandated service or it's a service that we make in Macon County select to provide.
I think also, ladies and gentlemen, that this basically is separate than from the molar roller, correct?
Adult dental and molar roller.
This is totally two different.
The fee structure is the same. These fees may not be used in the molar roller because they pertain specifically to adults. But the molar roller in the previous billing guide that you approved and sliding fee scale for children's dental, that actually slides to 25% of the Medicaid rate, which adult we slide to 50% of the 50% of the charge. Children slides to 25% of the charge, which is 50% of the Medicaid rate, is what they think.
Any questions? Any other questions,
I
gentlemen?
can almost read.
It's all right.
Any other questions or a motion to approve these fees? Good second. We have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Brother. The other item we have that we may want to help us with is the one that's added 9A1, the dental office renovation that kind of
Those up to the left. But a lot of people say, we can afford to have a doctor. So, I mean, I think you need to clarify that, you know, he's a doctor of veterinary medicine. Don't you? A lot of the public think he's a medical doctor. He's not, right?
We try and address that whenever we see it.
Tom.
That's my point, not editing the bottom. Per your previous request, we have prepared comprehensive architectural engineering drawings for about a little over 2,000 square foot interior renovation to space just below Macon County Park. I'm sorry, it's located at 108 Macon Center Drive. That's interior renovation to the end of the building that's CJ Rainey Homes that we were here last month or the month prior, and at least a week before. The 10th of December, we started the process. We sent it out to bid. We invited 5 local general contractors, all commercially licensed, able to do the job. The 21st of December, we received bids from 4 of them. 4 responded, the other one backed out of the job. Those bids came in on the 21st. We opened them in this room. They came in ranging from $89,800 to $101,700. You'll see that in the bid summary that's on the second page of this. We met this morning trying to determine where these numbers came in line with what our budget was to build this space out. It's our understanding that we had $89,500 left in our budget. Well, we had $89,800 in the low bid. What we have done is went back with a parallel bidder, Arrowwood Construction. Brett Murphy happens to be here tonight. We invited him, but we were adding 5 windows into the CJ building, into this space that weren't for view; they were for natural light. Those windows themselves, they added into the existing building, is $4,500 worth of value. Is it a requirement? Absolutely not. Is it a benefit to get some natural light there? It's very, very low. But what we have done, as you see in the adjustments there, is we deleted those windows for now. We've also deleted the permits. Now, I don't mean to take that away from the building department. You'll see down below in the notes that the building permit fees are going to be funded directly by the health department. So the building department will get that $885, but it actually comes out of the general contractor's dollar value. And if that $4,500 for those windows, we'll put into a contingency. This is a 60-day job. We will know in the first 30 days if we're going to need that contingency. If we have to spend it on something, Brett does not get it. Whatever contractor selected does not get that money until it's absolutely necessary, but gives us a little wiggle room if that makes sense. If we can afford 4 of those windows, maybe we put 4 of those windows in. If we can afford 5 of those windows, we put them back in. If we find out just the permit fees themselves are going to take us technically below that.
So, I understand that the bids came in almost exactly what you had.
Did not know what our budget was prior to the bids coming in.
There's no contingency money there. So
Right.
you want to back it down enough to make sure you can do the job.
Well, they can do the job. I mean, we've got a guaranteed max price for that 89, if you take the 89.8, subtract the 85, so they're just, right at 88,990, whatever it is. That's a guaranteed max price. Yeah, we carry it. Gives us,
How much have you
gives
got
us no
in your
wiggle room.
key?
All total, well, we have 89 that we had set aside, 89.5, which we had set aside for renovation. We have, in total, we have $252,000.
You got a big shine out of that.
Of which we've spent 114. So we have enough to cover this, and we met with the county manager this morning, and after that conversation, I went back and I looked at where we had monies as far as computers and furniture and other things, and where we could pull some funds from or narrow that down a little bit more finite. And we've now set aside, based on this reduction and what I've pulled, about 10%, about $8,500 that I've got set aside right now for contingency that we're not going to touch until we get to the end of this. To make sure that we have enough to cover the base cost. If we want to add the windows back in later, and cover that cost. And then all of the other things we have. We have money set aside for fees, for solid waste fees, for telephone, for electricity, for water, sewer. We have, as I said, some IT money set aside. We have some operating money set aside because we're adding additional operatories. We're going to have to buy some hand pieces and some other things for that. We've got rent set aside because this is an additional cost through March as we continue to rent our facilities office plus this property is being renovated. We have some non-capital money set aside for furniture, and we put the money into the initial budget as it is today. We're going to have to do some budget amendments to realign some of that to get into the right lines now based on this. So there'll be a budget amendment coming from over the next meeting to get those into the right line items. But we have enough to cover the cost of it. So it's not gonna, at this point, it's still not going to cost the county anything, any additional money.
So your recommendation is to accept the bid at $84,450.
Yes, sir.
Who covers the liability and the, for the equipment and for the place of business and for the equipment and all that? Whose insurance is it? Is that the county?
It's rented space that's covered under our insurance policy. Rented space for use by the county, our insurance is covered through the Risk Management Board Association.
That does cover it.
Property owner.
Oh, I can tell you about that.
Mr. Brent Murphy back in the back. Stand up.
Brent,
Mr. Murphy.
stand up.
See? There I am. I don't know if I have to exclude myself from vote, Mr. Murphy, my neighbor. We pass each other on the
Do you
road.
know him?
I know him, yeah. We stop and speak.
She excludes him. Well, if you also, Mr. Hayden, if you look at the bid summary, the second part of that second page on the lower end, you'll see the subcontractors for the major uses and major disciplines, whether it's error with themselves or, you certainly have to make a frank and keep under the foot, maybe with more money. They're all subcontractors, all licensed, all licensed.
Mr. Chairman, motion to approve the low bid of Ironwood construction of the renovations of the Macon County Field Lot.
We have a motion by Mr. Bill, second by Mr. Tate. Do we have any discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Mr. Murphy, the job is yours.
Thank you. Can I read it? Mr. Decker, public record, please.
Next item is the QZAB reimbursement resolution for which we had the hearing further on the meeting. Chester, I'm a bit confused about what I'm supposed to do, so give me some guidance.
We have passed out what's termed extracted from the minutes of the Board of Commissioners. This is a documentation. This is, yes. There should be one in each of the desks. Basically, within that is a resolution of the County of Macon, North Carolina, declaring the intent of the County of Macon, North Carolina, to reimburse itself for capital expenditures incurred in connection with certain improvements to the Highland School from proceeds of certain qualified zone academy bonds to be executed and delivered in the calendar year 2013. Just to give you a very brief synopsis of why that is before the commissioners this evening. Mr. Horton and I had the occasion to speak with bond counsel on this matter, and as well as counsel for the school board. And the question was posed, what if there is a need to begin spending money for this project before this transaction can be approved by the local government commission and before there's an actual closing, and whether or not those expenditures could be reimbursed from the QZAB financing. And they basically said, unless you have this reimbursement resolution that is before you, you may not do so. So obviously, Mr. Horton felt it wise for the county to have as much flexibility as possible on this project. We don't know that there's going to be a need to make expenditures before closing, but we also know we're on an extremely tight timetable, and
Everybody understand that?
In situations, we did have to spend some money.
Come out of contingency to reimburse. Sell it that. If we would borrow it, we'd use that contingency to reimburse the loan proceeds with.
the intent is to give the county as much flexibility as possible.
You may not need it, but it's better to have it not needed than to use it not have it.
My 10-year-old son is a fourth grader at Highland School, so this is sort of no-brainer. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the resolution? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Thank you, sir. New business, we have David Key. We have a request from Sky Valley Mountain Volunteer Fire and Rescue Department for relief fund money. And I hope everybody got it. We got it, I think after the fact, we had letters of information. They were sent to us by email. Everybody see that?
I did, but I couldn't open it either.
Let me give you a brief overview, and David can fill in the gaps. Each year, all fire departments in North Carolina belong to the Department of Relief Fund. The state collects a certain amount of money and distributes it statewide to volunteer fire departments based on the formula that they have. I think almost all of our fire departments, with maybe the exception of one, participates in the Fire and Relief Fund. The way that system has been set up in the past has been pretty much manual. They've gone for electronic versions of it now. This year, the form was sent out to the fire departments. The fire departments downloaded that form, filled it out, brought it to the county. The county then has to take that information and upload it and send it to the state in order to get the money back to the fire department for the fire and relief fund. What happened was an oversight during that process, and the responsibility, I think, falls back to the county. You're in the process of inputting those fire departments for the poverty relief fund. For some reason, we don't know how, Scaly Mountain failed to get added to the list. And so the $1,100 some that would come back to them, they didn't get it. It wasn't their fault. It was the fault of oversight on the county part. And so we felt like, since it was partially our responsibility to do that, we shouldn't make the property relief fund. That money is just used for property we're having problems, physical and otherwise, within the parks. These are all volunteers. And so we felt like that it would not make them suffer the consequences of oversight that actually occurred on the county side of the process. And so we asked the board to consider letting us reimburse the county, the fire department, Scaly Mountain, with $1,100 there that they would have got had the process gone through like it was expected to do.
The letter of apology.
They're actually not even asking for a letter of apology.
So we should give them, they don't have to do that.
They've been very, very gracious to speak with me.
They only wrote a letter requesting the money at my request, so that we can pay quickly.
Where you recommend that make?
Well, they did try to go ahead and ask the state to reconsider that state funding. So they know the resources they have to do.
Is this the only one that is overlooked?
That's the only thing. We don't pay anything. We get the money back for them through a process that we're having to sign off on and send them to law.
So basically what's happening is we're reimbursing Scaly Mountain $1,128.71 because of the clerical error on our behalf. Somebody I did, sorry, I apologize, I'm very late on hopping on this, but I wrote to Silva earlier this afternoon to meet with the treasurer of the State Farmers Association, who presides there. He's an assistant chief of Boston Fire Department. Talked to him about this because I didn't think it was fair that we're getting penalized, the department's getting penalized, and the taxpayers getting penalized $1,126 because of a simple one piece of paper thing that has no numbers on it. All it has is a list of the board of directors. So I asked them to please take this back to them and reconsider. My past secretary, Amy McCall, who's our fire chief, Mike McCall's daughter, worked for me for about 7 years in Highlands, and she's now the county administrator for the State Farmers Association. So I spoke to her for that day. So if we won't make Scaly too mad, I would like to table this till our next meeting and do a little bit more digging on this. If we're going to save $1 million, we're spending it. That's a good deal.
Good work. They get their good work.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Commissioner.
If not, well,
I think we're just.
either way, I will say if I can't get my work done, I'm not making promises.
We made a motion today, we just take it, right? We'll declare that table.
That'd be good. Do you want me to contact the fire department?
If you just let them know, we'll watch them, then give us 30 more days. They're gonna get money.
Until-
They're probably gonna get the money one way or the
So
other.
not to the meeting that's been recessed tonight, it'll be the next.
It'll be a regular meeting, February 12th. Thank you, Dave.
Excuse me, just to be sure, we'll try and get the state to come back up with one of the proper paperwork and consider any event that they've done in this board where they do what is suggested. We can get to
I'm fine with that.
They're blessing that fund now, do you know, David?
I don't know their totals, every
Is there a
fire
date
department
there?
is different. They should have some reserve. It's limited, that money is very limited on what you can use it for. They're Fireman's Relief Board actually has to approve it, and then it goes to the state board for approval before they can spend it. So it is a fund that's there for them to use for their firemen, but it is difficult to use.
Well, we're not putting them in a bind anyway.
Which 30 days is not going to put them in a bind.
I'm getting a real crash course.
Good. Yeah, Donnie, if you think that thing that Jim has was hard to read, or if you read the general statute on that, and how they.
Oh, I got that.
How they figure that.
Is that what you said? I thought it didn't print out. It got down here at the bottom when I run. I guess it doesn't. It might be the film.
There's about 8 different denominators that they figure in there. Some of them, they don't tell you where they get it from.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, the next item is resolution approving the terms of the loan modification, and our finance director, Jeff.
Here, this is the second half of what y'all approved last month, the other half of $15 or $16 billion. So we would ask you to go ahead and take the same action you did on the first half. And at a loss to be much more specific than that, our county attorney.
There was a proposed resolution in your package, I believe it's page 25.
It is, it's page 25 in your packet. It's a resolution approving modification terms contract, and it reads almost word for word like the other one.
Not to exceed, I think is the only language difference.
And the amount.
And the rate's the same, 2.61.
Correct.
Reminder to the media, this is the refinance that we did. We could due to
10 million
limitations.
annually.
You can't do but $10 million this in a year. So we did part of it in 2012. It is now 2013, even though it's just been a month ago. And we're reducing our rate on that loan from 4.59 to 2.61 with no prepayment penalty, et cetera, et cetera. And this is just doing the rest of it, which I would recommend.
Motion to approve the resolution, save us some money.
We have a motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Thank you, Lori.
And that's all we can say is that keeps us within bank qualified. And we still have enough latitude in our borrowing to be able to do a house project. The house project can't be bank qualified, but it really doesn't make any difference because it's a dead zero.
Drawbridge, your.
That's correct.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the commission. We have a new tenant who's applied for the Business Development Center, which is, excuse me, Drawbridge Secure Network Solutions. They're a managed firewall, VoIP provider, and network support company. The VoIP is Voice Operated Internet Protocol, which is fancy called for telephone with an internet. This company has been, Graham Edwards has been in business as a storefront operation, small computer repair in the past. Like many other businesses, they're trying to reinvent themselves and expand to more of a further reach on a nationwide business. And they've got a need for space at BBC. We have to have 900 square foot space that would fit their needs and also give them access to the laptop. Of course, the rate is $150 a month. In terms of the smaller units, it's really about $10 first year. For those, I don't know if you know about, we work on a 3-year program. Every year we review and usually someone, and then at the end of 3 years, by then you're either going to make it in business or pretty much need to pass.
Or you can rent a commercial space from the first.
That's right. And we can rent a commercial space, but we've already qualified for commercial. We have a subcommittee that reviews these applications. Three people, Don and our committee, David Owens and Mark West. They recommend that we accept this. So what we've got is a resolution for your approval declaring this as surplus property and lease it, and the second part is a lease for
We make one motion for that.
Yeah, sure, and there's a resolution, and just to approve that resolution effective.
Okay.
Probably did it, and how many employees is this?
right now they have two, they're forecast to be up to 6.
This is your original one?
It's
That's okay.
Yeah, if you would, because if the board approves it, then just go ahead and sign it or execute it.
Gentlemen, we have a motion to approve the lease.
Approve the resolution.
The resolution, the resolution, which includes and involves the lease.
I think so.
All second,
Jimmy.
Okay. Second by Commissioner Davis. Any discussion on the resolution? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes.
One other bit of good news for Business Development Center, Tommy and the rest of us, they talked to Bill Lewis with the Department of Motor Vehicles today, and they're planning to make their move from BDC down to the old yellow building. Either on the 18th of this month or the 25th of this month. They're working on getting their telephone hookups and all that, so, and lining up a booth for them to be able to move. But it either going to be on the 18th or the 25th, he told me this morning. That'll make that space available then for another client that's been coming.
we're actually working with a client now that's also not for business.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay, gentlemen, the next item is the consent agenda number 11. And this contains items typically that are discussed or controversial, do not need a lot of discussion. Including in this minutes, budget amendments 87 through 91, tax releases, and monthly ad valorem tax collection reports, no action necessary. Would any board member like to remove an item from that to discuss it, or a motion to approve item 11 would be in order?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the consent agenda, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Appointments, I have not been made aware of any.
We don't have any appointments on the agenda tonight, but I understand that there are some, perhaps EDC appointments that will be coming due sometime this year. And probably, I think, it's contact Mike to see when those are due.
And I have to work with putting together a list of everything that needs to come in front of us this year.
That way we know what's
So
soon.
we know in advance.
That'd be great.
I will give you this report, Mr. Chairman, from the tax office on the 7th, was that yesterday? What was it? Macon County Tax Office took in just a little bit more than $1 million.
We appreciate Bill paying his taxes.
I did pay my taxes. I went to the last minute, but I paid them, sir.
The collection rate was a little higher than it was this time last year.
That's true.
About 1%.
That's a credit to the tax department. It's really a credit to the people of this county who pay their
That's exactly
taxes
right.
and pay them on time and not go into delinquency on that. And that really is one thing that has really helped our financial situation in the county and our fund balance.
What was the last day?
The 7th.
The 7th.
You mean yesterday, by the way, you paid tax? I mean, a lot of people ain't got it.
You can pay them anytime.
Well, I paid mine on the last day.
You can pay them all the way up through sometime the first week of January.
Get paid.
The 7th of January, is
That
it?
was the second.
The 7th.
And then after that, kicks into,
Just talking about, the employees, and, the ones we recognize tonight, and we are blessed to go through the tax office. They take, respect.
they were office tax collector for 15 months. I certainly appreciate what the commission did.
Somebody took me, they heard your nickname was Tax Jack.
Good thing. We got the lowest tax rate in the state, so that's something to be proud of.
Well, before you told me that, I said, Haywood County, I said that, I think somebody said that,
I spent 2 weeks there one time.
You ever talk about,
as long as 2 weeks of your life.
I had a,
Really?
I had a meeting today with the chairman of Jackson County about some other issues and asked them what their budget was. I just curious if we had any comparison. They're a very similar county to ours, similar population, similar demographics, similar. They've got a resort out here like we've got. They're folks with like Highlands, Azures, Birmingham, and they've got a place like Franklin. Still very similar, but their budget is $62 million, where ours is 45, 46. So our budget's much less than theirs, and their tax rate is a little bit higher than ours. But their budget's significant, about $12 million higher than ours.
One of the things that they do that we don't include in ours is they collect a countywide fire tax, which is included as part of their revenue and expenditure. And ours is set aside as a separate. We don't include the actual revolving fire tax that are collected on top of the general fund tax. If you added that to it, that would significantly increase our total budget. Jackson County has a different way of doing that. We didn't know that until they had a chance to meet us. They have a single countywide factor that they use for all the fire departments and
Divided up.
it's part of their.
Motion to go into closed session.
And the request is attorney-client privilege. Check with you and share what that's about.
And to discuss the possibility of real property acquisition.
I make the motion. I think Ronnie second.
We have a second question. Commissioner Haven, all in favor of the motion to go into closed session, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion passes. I do not anticipate any action coming out. Chester, would you correct that?
I don't see any formal action being taken by the.
And Colin, who did you pick for the ball game last night?
Actually, it was the only pick that I got right, Alabama. So it kept me from going, like, I guess, imperfect. So,
Colin Doe?
got me all the others wrong.